Greetings, friends and countrymen. Welcome to Conspiracy Corner News, episode 41. This is Bart Sabrell. Conspiracy Corner News briefly highlights the week's most significant and underreported news events throughout the world, focusing on special preparation for the difficult times ahead for all mankind. Just a little plug here. If you go down to my moon landing films on my YouTube channel, you'll see there's a new release of the Spanish and French version in HD, as well as a new Russian language version of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Bart Sabrell YouTube channel, under moon landing films. Special shout out to all my PayPal contributors of Conspiracy Corner News: Seaman and John, Brett and Andy, James, Ralph, Joseph, Patricia, Graham, Adam, Romerico, Chris, Robert, Russ, Donald, Golden, Elaine, Snowman, Enar, Alan, and Andrew. Thank you very much, and for the Sleuth Journal sponsoring this, as well as my lovely wife. I'd also like to bring to your attention, we were recently joined with Amazon in what's called an affiliates program, which means if you go to their link at the top of my YouTube channel, just click on Bart Sabrell under this video and then go to the top right. There's a little A button up there. This will be used by you if you so choose. You can save it to your browser, and every time you shop on Amazon, Conspiracy Corner gets a tiny little commission. Help buy microphone cables and things like that. So, thank you for the 2-week holiday. I'm now back in business, and I thought we would take a look at this. To start with, I think this is a pretty significant event, not in and of itself, but when you have several of them back to back, you'll see what I'm talking about. This was most recently reported that a fireball is seen over the East Coast with sightings from Canada to the DC region. All of these videos will be linked in the description of this YouTube video if you want to take a further look at it. It says that this fireball was all the way from Canada to Washington, D.C., and the sonic boom was heard pretty far south, I think as south as Pennsylvania. And there's a video down here. This one here isn't that good. It's kind of in slow motion, but here's a better video of it that I've slowed down a dash cam of somebody recorded the event. Here it is coming in the top left at about 11 o'clock. And you'll see it making a nice little streak across the sky there. Kind of looks similar to that one in Russia a year or so ago. And I thought I would bring this to everyone's attention because of this one that happened a week before this last week's one. So this now makes two in Australia, off of Queensland. It says astronomers are concerned that Earth is not sufficiently protected from an asteroid strike after a meteor crashed into Australia. It was over this Turkey Beach area here in Queensland. And it says space experts have raised serious doubts that scientists have done enough to minimize the doom of an asteroid impact. Experts have expressed their dismay following reports that an Australia was subject to a meteor impact. It goes on to go into a little bit greater detail of it. It's not really that good of a video of it, just a little flash in the sky, but it says one witness said that they saw something flash overhead and then disappear into the sea. Astronomers have claimed that humanity is doomed if an asteroid, singular, heads our way. Wappa Falls Observatory Owen Benedict said there's not enough research done around the world and not enough observatories or observing time to do it. It's only when they get a big scare, like when comet Shoemaker-Levy hit Jupiter, which I think was 1994, or when one blew over Russia, that they start paying attention. He's saying this. It says it needs to be either a dedicated organization, need to change that, I think, to a Z, that keeps people on track or be funded in some way. It says NASA, which has established a Planetary Defense Coordination Office that is working on ways to protect the world from asteroids, has previously admitted that protection levels are nowhere near what we need. Although it is near impossible for scientists to say when another asteroid will hit our planet, I'm not sure that's true. Most will agree that another impact is inevitable. Here's the one over Russia. And you can look at that. Like I said, everything is going to be linked later. Now, here's someone has just brought up a great question, which is if this comet hit Jupiter in the 90s actually hit Earth, what would happen? And basically, he did a simulation, a computer simulation on this, and it says it would be energy equivalent of about a third of the megatons that killed off 98% of all life on Earth when the one that allegedly got rid of the dinosaurs took place. It's in theory. Could this end the human species? It says without advanced planning, I suspect so. Exclusive of the direct damage, this impact would certainly usher in environmental chaos. That term seems a little familiar, doesn't it? The French minister talked about environmental chaos. An impact, winter zone, ozone damage, mass extinctions that would make survival difficult for all but the most prepared. Even then, I wonder if anyone could make it until the Earth reached a new human habitable equilibrium. So then, this is, I believe, done by civilians, but basically the military runs various scenarios on what might happen if. So here's one about what might have happened had this comet hit the Earth instead of Jupiter. I'll link to this, and I won't go into too much detail, but basically it talks about mass unrest. If they told the truth about it in advance of it coming, it would cause riots and food shortages, and then eventually war because of nations fighting over limited resources and things like that. But I will link to that here. Here's an article also worth taking a quick look at. Dolpheus was this near-Earth asteroid that came relatively close and to hitting the Earth a couple of years ago. And it says there could be as many as 1 million space rocks near enough to hit Earth, and in some cases take out major population centers. Again, this is talking about a singular one at this point. Where's the asteroid czar who will finally mount a cohesive planetary defense, right? So all this money spent on, I don't know how much an aircraft carrier costs, but nowadays probably about $10 billion, and a tiny, tiny amount of money is being spent on protecting the Earth from incoming asteroids, at least officially. If you don't typically follow the debate on planetary defense, you could be forgiven for thinking Earth-crushing asteroids are more the stock and trade of big-budget action filmmakers than an actual concern for the taxpaying America. Might surprise you to learn that John Holdren, director of the White House's Office for Science and Technology Policy, recently wrote congressional leaders to recommend that NASA spearhead a multi-agency effort to assess asteroid deflection technologies. But consider for a moment the following information. In the previous 12 years, they went from 500 that they knew of to 7,000, of which 20%, these are the known ones, are potentially hazardous to mankind. So if it's 200 for every 1,000, that's about what is that, 1,400 out of this, and that's 10% of what they know of. So you have to multiply that again by 10. So there's about 14,000 at least potential Earth collisions in our future. Not a cheery thought. It goes on to say there are 1 million near-Earth asteroids out there, and 20% of 1 million is 200,000. And so we have this theoretically is their maximum number. I said the minimum one. Now here's why I wanted to bring up this last thing here. They're also launching a lot of probes lately to asteroids. This is the 3rd or 4th one in the last 8 years or so. And so they are suddenly have, the government has an increased curiosity, and they're spending a lot of money going to these asteroids. And what they'll admit is that they're going to take rock sample and things like that. But if they're going to travel all that great distance, there might be some other reasons why they're in that neighborhood. Maybe they're trying to deflect it. Maybe they don't want us to know it's heading our way. Maybe it's a little station toward other meteors that might be hitting the Earth. Now, here's one from Arizona. You may remember this fireball in Arizona. This was from June, so now we have 3 this year so far. We have the most recent one, I guess, early this week in Canada and the Northeast United States. Then we had one the previous week in Arizona, and then we forgot about, the previous week in Australia, and then this one in June from Arizona. The interesting thing about this, you can read the story again. It says here, Twitter user David Atkins shared the photo of the smoke trail of the fireball in Arizona. So I appreciate the newspapers letting the public do their reporting for them without getting paid, but unfortunately they should check their facts a little bit. Here's the actual video of the asteroid hitting, and you can kind of see it coming down here in the sky. There it comes there. So it's a pretty straight little shot coming down. So if it's a straight shot coming down, then what is all this zigzag going on here? You know what I mean? Oh, well, let's take a look at this. Here are images from Google search for missile trails. And as you'll see here, I'll zoom back out just a little bit here. You'll see that, doesn't this kind of look familiar right here? Let's see, here was the zigzag there. And here again, we're looking for missile trail. And here's another one, interesting. You know, comparison with that. You see this? So here's the aftermath of a meteor or asteroid, and then here is a picture of missile, you know, cloud formations. You can see, look, here's one right here. See that? We'll go even a little bit bigger on it. And then here is the alleged, you know, fireball over Arizona. Now, what this means is that this fireball over Arizona was either shot down or they made an attempt to shoot it down. And what I suspect, as you'll see as we start winding things up here, that the United States government is preparing for more than one asteroid strike. So when these ones that are coming in, like in Arizona, aren't that dangerous, you know, what they do is they practice, and they practice shooting missiles at it, which is something they apparently have already done, because here's the aftermath of the one in June in Arizona. They might be doing the same thing in Australia, because that was off the coast. It was at night, and there was no pictures of any track or anything. So that's looking pretty interesting. Now let's look at this definition of what a meteor shower is. A meteor shower is a celestial event in which a number of meteors or asteroids are observed to radiate or originate from one point in the night sky. These meteors are caused by streams of cosmic debris called meteoroids entering the Earth's atmosphere at extremely high speeds on parallel trajectories. Shoemaker-Levy, I believe, hit Jupiter at 134,000 miles an hour. A lot of asteroids are 20 to 30,000 miles per hour, but that one was 134. You got to imagine a rifle bullet is at 2,000 miles an hour. So these are considerably faster than that, and it's because of that that the relatively minute size compared to the whole Earth, it's that velocity that causes this, you know, dynamic force. And that's why, you know, a mile across asteroid, just one of them, would probably change the climate on the Earth for, you know, 100 years and probably lead to killing half the people on the planet through climate change and food shortages and things like that. Let's go on to say here that some meteor storms can produce 1,000 meteors per hour. So this is what I believe is happening. The reason why we have this increase in these asteroids and meteors is because it's going to get worse, not better. And I'll also link to a Planet X article. If there are rogue bodies, and they just admitted a year or so ago in scientific journals that there's as many as 1 billion free-floating planets, generally larger than Earth, floating around in just our galaxy. And as you throw a pebble in a pond and it ripples outward, gravity actually pushes away as much as it pulls towards. So as a large object is heading toward the Earth, it will push asteroids and meteors ahead of it. If you believe in the Bible, then take a look at this. It says, in those days, which is talking about the last days, after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And the stars of heaven shall fall. Now this is Jesus himself talking about what will precede his second coming. And the stars of the heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in the heavens shall be shaken. And then they will see the coming of the Son of Man. So the tribulation, or time of trouble, precedes the Messiah's second, advent on earth. Here's a scripture from Revelation. And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And here it is again, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, even as a fig tree cast her untimely figs. So it looks like it's a little untimely. And it also goes on to say that the kings of the earth, and this is pretty interesting, and the kings of the earth and the great men, the rich men and the chief captains and their mighty men and every bond hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. Oh, well, wait a minute here. Pentagon reopens Cheyenne Mountain. Wasn't this what we just talked about? The kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men, and they will hide themselves in dens and in rocks in the mountains. Oh, and what do we have here? A den and a rock in the mountain being opened up. It says, largely abandoned a decade ago, the iconic Cold War bunker is getting an upgrade. It's being reopened, right? And of course, they're not going to tell us exactly why, because in their own little scenario, if they tell the truth, they think the world's going to panic, That may or may not be true. It depends on how they do it. And here's a quote from Janet Napolitano, outgoing Homeland Security Director, the day she resigned, said this, right here: a natural disaster, the likes of which the nation has never seen, is likely on its way. Now, this was about 2.5 years ago when she said this, so this is pretty interesting. We know it's a natural disaster. We know the U.S. has never seen it, and we know it's predictable at least 2.5 years in advance. There's only one thing, or one, type of thing that fits into all three categories: a natural disaster, one the U.S. has never seen, and one that can be predicted 2.5 or more years in advance. And that's something coming from outer space, a comet, an asteroid, or a meteor shower. Again, I will link to all of this documentation at the end of this Conspiracy Corner episode 41. The greater question, of course, is, are you prepared for eternity? Please tell your friends, share the link, give me a YouTube thumbs up if you like this video, and be sure to read the full Sleuth Journal article on this topic, also linked in the description of this video. And most of all, thank you for your kind and generous support. Moon landing films on my YouTube channel. You'll see there's a new release of the Spanish and French version in HD, as well as a new Russian language version of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Bart Sabrell YouTube channel, under Moon Landing Films. Special shout out to all my PayPal contributors of Conspiracy Corner News. Holiday, I'm now back in business, and I thought we would take a look at this. To start with, I think this is a pretty significant event, not in and of itself, but when you have several of them back to back, you'll see what I'm talking about. This was most recently reported that a fireball is seen over the East Coast with sightings from Canada to the DC region. All of these videos will be linked in the description of this YouTube video if you want to program, which means if you go to their link at the top of my YouTube channel, just click on Bart Sabrell under this video and then go to the top right. There's a little A button up there. This will be used by you if you so choose. You can save it to your browser, and every time you shop on Amazon, Conspiracy Corner gets a tiny little commission. help buy microphone cables and things like that. So, thank you for the 2 week. Greetings, friends and countrymen. Welcome to Conspiracy Corner News, episode 41. This is Bart Sabrell. Conspiracy Corner News briefly highlights the week's most significant and underreported news events throughout the world, focusing on special preparation for the difficult times ahead for all mankind. Just a little plug here. If you go down to my Seaman and John, Brett and Andy, James, Ralph, Joseph, Patricia, Graham, Adam, Romerico, Chris, Robert, Russ, Donald, Golden, Elaine, Snowman, Enar, Alan, and Andrew. Thank you very much, and for the Sleuth Journal sponsoring this, as well as my lovely wife. I'd also like to bring to your attention, we were recently joined with Amazon in what's called an affiliate